of these six, which are all quite good projects with their merits and charm and competence, but one really stood out very, very strongly, and there we have a unanimous decision on, a really very impressive project. And the project which we kind of chosen as a winner is the Narrow Tower by Gensler, the San Francisco office, as I understand, in Seoul. It's a mixed-use landmark tower on the Han River. And I think it's a very powerful landmark, but which has depth and sophistication and a very original idea of a double facade. It's a very tall tower. It's about 500 meters, 136 stories, one of the tallest tower in the world, but it is more than just a form. It has a kind of rhythm and structure and differentiating up the vertical axis, and works with a kind of idea of a double facade, the outer layer being a kind of cable net which finds its form between plates cantilevering out, and therefore gives a kind of structure of sky lobbies and event spaces in that interim space. It starts with a kind of base, I think of about 30-40 stories of offices, and then goes on with apartments, service apartments and hotel to the top. And at the top, in the top 2/3 also has a powerful internal atrium. And I think it is, we also thought that it fits well into the Asian context. You can see, it has this Asian feel to it. Although it's kind of subtle, it alludes to pagoda, it alludes to a kind of sailing boats, but that's not important what it alludes to. It's just you feel this is an Asian project. It has a lightness, it has an elegance, it has a kind of concave curves you find in Asia in the roofs. But what really intriguing is a kind of sense of a vertical city, and I truly think that it's a very powerful statement. We did have some points of criticism. I think it's a very mature, impressive project. There were issues of the way the podium is handled, which I know from our projects and tower projects we do is a difficult issue, particularly for a very tall tower. How do you actually bring it down, how it interfaces with something which doesn't have that scale? And I think there's a point of criticism. We felt the podium is not successful, it's not well integrated, and not resolved aesthetically, how that is handled. And also we were a bit skeptical. There's a kind of spire at the top which we felt somehow disrupts and takes a bit away from the overall profile and power of the project. So we take this liberty to launch these kind of minor criticisms, but in the end I think it's a very strong project.
Well, I thought it was a really interesting mix of projects which we looked at today. It was tremendous diversity right across the world, which I think was really good. So it is, and I think one of the big debates there is what is a commercial building? It's not just to do with offices, it's actually to do with spaces which actually work. For the people who are going to visit it, whether they're going to live there, whether they're going to work there, whether they're just going to visit as a visitor passing through a city, how it connects into its local community, what is its sustainability issues, how does it work in all respects in terms of energy use, in terms of the way that the people use it, what does it do to its society and its surroundings. So I think that was the real key. Then it is to do with beauty as well. So it's actually functionality followed by the beauty of the building. And some buildings, just when we were going through the reviews, just stood out from others. And you know, they look extremely good. There was a really diverse range, which I think is good. It's very interesting, I think, to see that what is happening throughout the world, whether it's in the US, whether it's Europe, whether it's UK, or whether it's in the Far East. There's lots of diversity. I think some of the ones which really stood out to me were first of all was the Citroën building in Paris, which I thought was just extraordinary. It was no doubt a sales, it was a selling, and you look at the brand expectation, it just reflected everything. You could say that is going to be a world-class building for many centuries, just the way that you would have said something to do with the Gaudi building in Spain previously. It is very, very expressive, and it could not be anything else but a Citroën building. So that's I thought that the restaurant from the Far East was absolutely beautiful, beautifully executed using local materials, obviously local labour, and also fulfilled some functions in terms of getting the community together. How sustainable? Tremendously sustainable, no air conditioning, no cooling or anything like that, just purely beauty of being in the external space with lovely water around you. You then take the building in central London, the Makes refurbishment of the old office building, again taking that functionality further forward, taking an existing building, making the most of it, and if we are going to do anything in the world for the future, is to do with actually looking at a lot of our existing building stock and actually how do we adapt it, how do we reduce its energy, and how do we make it more efficient as a space. And I think that was a very good example of that. And then you look at the other ones, which are the exhibition space over in America. I thought that was also extremely good in the way that it addressed the public space externally, brought visitors into it, very functional plan, and aesthetically very pleasing. It's a beautiful simplicity to it.